Well, hello everyone. Happy Thursday. I hope you're having a good work week. And as I promised, I said I would be back. I'm sure some of you are dismayed. Here I am for another video. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the discussion boards. I wanted to let you know that everything's graded. There will be notes on your philosophical statements this weekend, probably like Sunday. And I will be talking about those maybe in my next video to you. But I wanted to bring up the discussion board, and I wanted to start with this for Debbie because she was so funny in her video. So here you go. Here you go, Debbie. I'm Slim Shady, yes, I'm the real Shady. All you other Slim Shadys are just imitating. So won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. That was a great introduction. I loved seeing that. It made me laugh when I read your discussion board. So thank you, Debbie, for your sense of humor. You know, it is so important to have a sense of humor in education and in teaching. And I think maybe I said this in this class. I don't know. I'm old and repeating myself, but you know, the Pulitzer committee talks about how the American voice is a voice of humor, a self-deprecating humor, and I love that. So I enjoyed seeing your Slim Shady post. So I want to go over just a couple things that you said, and if I don't shout out at everybody this class time, I will in the future. Um, First, I wanted to start out with Mari was talking about common assessments, and Amy had responded back that district-wide assessments. I think it was Amy that responded back that it was just not what she thought it was going to be. I understand what you're saying, Mari, about they're time consuming but rewarding. And some of the things that you can think about with common assessments when you're working on them with the team is how many do you really want to do? And do you want to divide them by grade levels? And, what are your principals in your district going to support you in? So, like for my 11th grade English, the English teachers, we have decided on common assessments for the year related to just our grade and an amount that we feel comfortable with that will assess our students and help us, gather data that will help us move forward in teaching our students and finding a common goal that we can work on as a team. But we were also very careful to not do so many that we were overwhelmed or that we were constantly teaching to meet this assessment. So you might want to look at that. So some of our assessments are essay format. Some of our assessments are online, multiple choice, short answer, and some of them are related to the SBAC and digital technologies. So, it's something to consider with your department and see if you can come out with something that will not make you feel so pressured by this assessment. It's supposed to be helpful. It's not supposed to be hindering. You have to be able to teach your curriculum, really teach your curriculum well at a pace that works for you to get good data from your assessment. So something to think about. Adam and Mabel, you were both showing about learning targets, and a lot of schools are requiring teachers to have learning targets on the board. And some people will have really, really, lengthy learning targets. And I know that sometimes, we are just we're just under the gun to get something, something done. And one of the ways that I like to show the kids, what we're doing and where we're going and what we're working on, and also for people to come in the classroom to see what's going on, is to just do the what, why, how. What are we doing today? This is what we're doing today. Why are we doing this? Because we want to learn this, 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 and this. Our objective is this. And then how are we going to be able to assess this, either by collaborative conversations or written essay or whatever. And you can do that really quickly, the what, why, and how. And it'll help you stay on target. It'll help the students know what they're doing. And then if anybody comes in to, assess what you're doing in teaching, a walkthrough, something like that, you do have it on the board, and it's there for them to see. So something to think about. Jessica, you were talking about balancing different levels, scaffolding, high-low, English language learners, and there's so much information on that and how to do that. A lot of people do like pairing or collaborative groups or those types of things where you have highs, mediums, and lows together in the group. You can also pair English language learners with, somebody that's not a second language learner, a high level student in whatever you may be teaching, math, English, science, or whatever, to help them kind of mentor and partner them. And somebody else said, and I don't think I wrote it down, but somebody said that they oftentimes get things from other students that, or understand it in a way from other students that you couldn't explain. And that's very true. I mean, look at how you see this with siblings. Usually, young children that have older siblings know and know more, a lot more than somebody that does not have any older siblings. So, because they're mimicking, they're watching, they're picking up all of the time. So that's something that you can consider. Um, I think it was Monica said, I think I get too excited when I do a history lesson. I love that. I think I get too excited. That's exactly what we want. We want you to be too excited when you teach. And younger grades. Oh, there's Opal in the video. Hello, Opal. Younger children, middle school children, high school children, they all love it when you get excited. We know this, and it's okay to have that excitement and be too excited, and let them see you as a human being enjoying and being excited about education and your lesson to the point of being a goofy nerd. And I even say to my high school students, I know I'm being a total goofy nerd, but I just love this. Can you see why I love this? And they'll always get a kick out of it. Mari, you had brought up again something else that I thought was interesting is when we moving on to the second DB, Sir Ken, and on creativity. You all had some really interesting thoughts about creativity. Mari, you were talking about Pinteresty things and, making your bulletin boards look a certain way and stuff like that. But here's something that I want you guys to remember. As an artist, I want you to remember, yes, art can be messy and disorganized, and some artists can be messy and disorganized. And um, uh, a, a lot of times when you get to something or when you're creating something, it is a messy, disorganized process. It's sparking everywhere, and then all of a sudden it brings you to your path. But when you were talking about Pinteresty activities, remember that you're also going to have creatives in your class. You're going to have to look at the different types of creatives. There are creatives that are very organized and Pinteresty, and then there are creatives that are very messy and chaotic. And when you were talking about making your boards look a certain way or something like that, another way of bringing creativity in your room is, are you making the boards or are you letting students make the boards? Are you considering having them help create, design? Remember, even with something like Pinterest, students are learning how, if they're using something like that, they're learning how to categorize, they're learning placement, they're learning what their interests are, they're learning sorting, and they're learning if you have some type of way of doing posting or digital technology, protective ways of using that, then they're learning digital technology as well. So that's a form of creativity, not just this messy, chaotic activity. Some artists really like everything to be super, super structured. I see that a lot with writers. Many of us writers, like, we get up in the morning at a certain time and we write for a certain amount of time because that helps us to have the creativity show up. So something to think about. Shannon, you were talking about how you like how each school year is a fresh start. And I like that too, because sometimes we have years. I told you my last year was just horrific. And it's been nice to see so many students come by to check on me and just say hello and give me loves. And to have had the summer to go back and kind of, you know, um, catch my breath, but also to adjust to, we have a new administration, and uh, they've been there about 3 years now, but I still had to adjust from an administrator that I'd had for many, many years and knew exactly what he wanted and what he needed, to new people who wanted to come in and bring new ideas, some that are going to work and some that are not, and kind of have to find my way through that. So I kind of had to get my head in that mindset to be prepared, for that again this year. And there's this great line in Lucy Maud Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables that I've always loved. When I think it was Miss Stacy, the teacher says, "Anne, tomorrow is always fresh with no mistakes in it." And I love that. It's a good reminder for when we feel like we've failed as parents or failed as teachers or whatever. It's not a be all and an end all. You can start over. And as an adult, we can also apologize when we need to start over, to the kids. And we can also tell them, I needed to start over, and this is why. Which brings me to Lauren, you were talking about growth mindset. And several of you were talking about, Jessica, you talked about, Sir Ken talking about, squander children's creativity and you're feeling they're robbed of art. You know, I remember finding something when I was cleaning the house and going through, the papers from my mother when we were small children. I was going through everything for her and separating everything and sending it to the siblings. And I found this piece of art that my brother did in second grade. It was just beautiful little child's art. But his teacher had written on the back of that. Now, granted, this is second grade. Had written on the back of it. I guess you can see that Don will, never really be an artist. That it's not his strong suit. And I thought, what a jack, you know what? I was so angry when I found it. Still, all these years later, I'm sure she's long gone. But I was bent that somebody would write something like that at that age on a child's paper. Now, I don't know if my mother ever said anything about it. I never asked her about it. My brother is a serious creative. I mean, he's an amazing blues musician and plays with very well-known people all over the United States. And I was just shocked about that and how something that small, that comment, could have changed the whole trajectory of that child's education because of that comment. And we see that all the time in the older grades. And I know you're seeing it. I read that you were seeing that in the younger grades too. But we see people that are robbing children of creativity. They're either hearing people say, I can't play music or I can't do math or whatever at home, or, yeah, oh, you're not really, that's not really your thing, or they're pushing them towards something else. And then what happens in the older grades is we see children that have been beaten down again and again and again and again that say things like, I can't do art. And I'm like, yes, you can. I can't do math. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So growth mindset, we have to remember that we have to show them our growth mindset. A lot of times these kids, no matter what we say, they see us and they just see us as successful and we seem so smart and we seem so together and we're in an authoritative position. You have to break that fourth wall, like they say in theater. You have to show some vulnerability. It doesn't mean that you're not still going to be, the power position in the room. You are, but you have to show them that you fail, you make mistakes, and this is how you learn and this is how you move on. That grit. We want them to have that grit and to understand that mistakes are part of the entire process of everything in life. Everything in life, from construction, from relationships, to education, to art, to music. I don't sit down and write a perfect song. I sit down and I write a mediocre song, and then I work to change it and get it to a place where I feel comfortable with it. And then when I play it on stage, guess what? Sometimes I make mistakes and I just move through it. And they have to learn that. They have to learn that. Grit is the biggest predictor in education, of how successful a child's going to be in education. Grit, having grit, getting back up and doing it again. And Monica, look at how excited I'm getting about this lesson. I'm sure you're excited listening to me right now. But, so I really like that you guys saw that. Arlene, I love that you say to your students, you may not be passing yet, but you will pass someday. That you're making those strides. I mean, we all need to hear that. We all need to hear that. Every single one of us have had a day where we've just felt like we've failed miserably. And you need somebody, some sounding board, someone that's going to say, you know what? It was good enough today. You did good enough today, okay? You'll do better tomorrow, which comes back to tomorrow's fresh with no mistakes in it. Those are some things to think about. And I want to end with Jessica. Jessica, you said this pressure to meet all of these learning, assessments and standards and pacing and, how to create this creative environment. You've got to put it in. And it takes time to sit down and look at your curriculum, but there's ways to add it into the curriculum and still meet your standards and find ways to bring creativity into the classroom. And, it does take some time to sit down and work on it. So last year I had a class. Usually I have a class and it's all arts, media, and entertainment. All the students are artists. Last year I had a class. It was arts, media, entertainment. Half of the class was, and the other half was from a different academy, and they were business. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, how am I going to bring this into my American history literature curriculum? How am I going to still follow my pacing, meet my standards, all of those things, but tie in arts, media, entertainment, and business? And of course, that's exactly what I did, was look at entertainment business. And we even found ways to be able to tie it into science and math, of course, by looking at entertainment business. We even found ways to tie it into conservation. So it's you sitting down and finding that way to bring that creativity in. Whenever I do lessons with my students, to bring creativity in, I use music from different periods of time, or songs that I think that tie in. Like if we're doing a unit on freedom, I might choose a song about freedom. I might choose a song from that time period, or I might choose George Michael's Freedom, and find ways to tie that in. Or I may look at art pieces from the time period. I may look at mathematical elements of art at a time period. If I'm doing science, I can tie in how art pigments changed over time or haven't changed over time related to scientific studies. So you just have to find ways to bring that creativity in, and then you can still build in time. I mean, most of the districts are wanting kids to do collaborative education and multimedia presentations. So you can bring the creativity in that way by allowing, photography or video clips or music, sound bites, whatever, graphic design. All of those things can be in PowerPoints and still meet your standards and assessments and those types of things. The last thing I want to say is, when Sir Ken's talking about creativity and bring it back, you do have to see too that the push in California is now on CTE, which is Career Technical Education. So we're starting to see the wheels spin towards looking at students who may not be just, we have a lot of great students that are not just academic, or not doing well in academics, and that doesn't mean they're not smart. Oftentimes they might be mechanically smart, smarter than you could ever imagine. Hands-on learners, or fabulous in culinary crafts. I had a student that wanted to be in our program, and I was very upset when the district raised the GPA, because many artists, and any of you that are artists out there know that many artists are not highly academically inclined. It doesn't mean that they're not smart. It's that they're more driven by their art. And so you'll see a lot of these amazing top level artists, musicians, theater kids with like 2.0 GPAs, because their art's the most important thing, and they do just what they need to do get the average grade to get by. And so I think by doing these types of GPA requirements, you're putting another hurdle that we just don't need for kids that are not going on to be academics in that way. And I have several students who are famous tattoo artists that are touring the world with bands, that are at dance schools, trade schools, working at all of the Staples Center and as stage crew. We don't want to count those kids out. And so we have to find ways to, not just teach the academics for kids that are going to go to college, but also look at, what's going on with the future. And, as Sir Ken said, many of the jobs that we are training for today have not even, they haven't even been created yet. We have no idea what technology is going to be like in 4 years, 5 years. We have no idea what the internet's going to be like in that amount of time, or learning platforms. They're actually working now on making something that is more like aha moments, multiple connections for when you're online and you're learning. So, I mean, that's in the early stages right now. So what's going to happen 2, 3, 4, 5 years? We just don't know what jobs are going to be out there that haven't been invented yet. So food for thought, and great conversation, you guys, and I really liked everything that you put. So I will talk to you later. Have a wonderful week. I'm already at 20 minutes. My God, watch this in segments if you have to. And have a wonderful weekend. Remember that we've got Labor Day on Monday. I'm not going to be grading anything or looking at anything until Tuesday. So I'm just letting you know that. I know you're supposed to submit on Sunday, but I'm just letting you know that I'm not going to be looking or grading anything until Tuesday. I'm going to take my breather. And you should take a breather too. Make sure you spend time relaxing or with your family or with your pets or on your own, but take some downtime, okay? Have a good weekend. I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.